On this edition of Early Look, I'm going to be previewing the welterweight title fight main event headlining UFC 315 in Montreal, May 10th, between champion Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena. My name is James Lynch. If you've never watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats and intangibles, and then I'm going to give you my prediction for this fight at the end. After you're done watching this video, let me know in the comments which way you're leaning on this fight. Would love to hear your opinion on this one. And let's dig into it right now. Let's start first with a quick tale to tape between these two. Belal Muhammad, the welterweight champion, 24-3, 17-2 for Jack Della Maddalena, 36-28, 5'11 apiece, 72-73. So Belal Muhammad a lot older, but physically very similar here. Both 5'11. Little bit of a reach advantage there for Jack Della Maddalena, but not much. Again, this is going to be a 5-round fight taking place at the Bell Center in Montreal, one of the best arenas in all of MMA. I mean, this is where George St. Pierre fought back in the day. First card in Canada was here at UFC. I think it was 83 back in the day. So really looking forward to this one. Let's start first with the welterweight champion, Belal. Remember the name Muhammad. You can see there he is 24-3. He's got 5 knockouts, 1 submission, and 17 decisions. He's 36 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach. He trains out of Valley Flow Striking, is a BJJ brown belt. He's the current welterweight champion, like I mentioned. He's the first welterweight champion, UFC champion, I should say, of Palestinian descent. He's got performance of the night 2 times against Takashi Sato and Sean Brady. He's got fight of the night 1 time against Alan Jouban. He's got the most unanimous decision wins in welterweight division history at 11. Belal made his amateur debut way back in September of 2010. Made his pro debut 2 years later in August of 2012, made his UFC debut in July of 2016. And he's 14-3 in the UFC. He's got 3 stoppage victories. Some notable wins include Damian Maia. Where are we here? So he's got Damian Maia, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Vicente Luque, Sean Brady, Gilbert Burns, and Leon Edwards. His only losses are Alan Jouban in his debut, which I believe was short notice, Vicente Luque, and Jeff Neal. He hasn't lost a fight since January of 2019. He's had a few injuries throughout his career, but overall he's been very active in the division. But most recently, he's had a few layoffs in his last few fights. So we'll talk about some of the ones here. So going from Gilbert Burns to Leon Edwards, there was a 448-day layoff in that one. And then going from Leon Edwards to Jack Della Maddalena, there'll be a 287-day layoff. I believe it's the second longest layoff of his career. If you look at earlier in his career, going from Chance Rencounter to Jeff Neal, there was a 232-day layoff. And then going from Lyman Good to Diego Lima, there was a 238-day layoff. So second longest layoff of his career going into this fight, but not his fault. He was supposed to defend his title against Shavkat Rakhmonov in December. Had an issue with that. I think it was something to do with his foot, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, bone infection. So that kept him out for a bit. But yeah, overall, Belal, pretty active fighter. Belal Muhammad, even though had a bunch of decision wins, none of them were close. Like there weren't any controversial decisions or anything along those lines. So that's something to point out. And then as far as his stats go, Belal Muhammad, significant strikes landed per minute, 4.39. His striking accuracy is at 43%. His striking defense at 57%. He doesn't get hit that much. His takedown average is 2.28, which is very high. His takedown accuracy is at 39%, and his takedown defense is at 89%. We'll see if Jack goes for any takedowns in this one. Probably not. But yeah, that's everything you need to know about the current welterweight champion, Belal Muhammad. And now let's talk about his opponent, Jack Della Maddalena, the Aussie. Big opportunity for him here. So Jack, I mentioned it there, 17-2. He's got 12 knockouts, 2 submissions, and 3 decisions. He's currently ranked number 5 in the welterweight division. He's 28 years old, 5'11", with a 78-inch reach. And so he is 7 years younger and going to have a 1-inch reach advantage in this fight as far as the reach. Trains out of Scrappy MMA, is a BJJ black belt. He's got performance of the night 4 times against Ramzan Ameev, Danny Roberts, Randy Brown, and Gilbert Burns. He's got fight of the night 1 time against Basil Hafez. Made his amateur debut way back in November of 2015. So when Jack Della Maddalena made his amateur debut, Belal Muhammad made his UFC debut a year after. Kind of interesting there. Made his pro debut in March of 2016. So again, just a few months before Belal making that UFC debut in July. And interestingly, with Jack Della Maddalena, went 0-2 to start his career, but obviously since then has not lost a single fight. Very impressive. It just goes to show you out there, don't give up when things are tough in the early going. Made his UFC debut in January of 2022. That was the fight against Pete Rodriguez, which was a bit of a suicide mission. Pete Rodriguez only had 4 fights and obviously got knocked out in the first round. By that point, by the time Jack Della Maddalena made his UFC debut, Belal Muhammad had 15 UFC fights. So talking about experience, definitely Belal has that in spades. JDM is 7-0 in his UFC career. He's got 5 stoppage victories. He's only got 2 notable wins, really. if you look at it. One of them is Kevin Holland, who's been ranked before, and then Gilbert Burns, obviously, who fought for a title too. Those are sort of the only notable ones. You could maybe mention Randy Brown. Randy Brown's sort of been hovering around the rankings, but overall hasn't fought the best competition out there in terms of him getting this title shot. But again, timing's everything. It was supposed to be Shavkat Rakhmonov getting this fight. He's still injured, so JDM steps up and gets it. And I should mention as well that JDM was supposed to fight Leon Edwards on the UFC London card. They pulled him from that fight in favor of Sean Brady to give JDM the title shot. So there'll be a bit of a long layoff going into this fight for JDM. Longest of his career, 427 days was the last time he fought. So he fought again in March of 2024. We'll be fighting in May of 2025. So this is the longest layoff in his career. And just so people know, he suffered a left forearm. He had a broken left forearm during the Gilbert Burns fight in March of 2024. That injury then led to a bone infection and multiple surgeries after that. So that's why we haven't seen him in so long. So Jack Della Maddalena still getting the finish in that fight with Gilbert Burns despite having a broken left forearm. Now, he's had a couple fights. Two of these were split in his UFC career. The Basil Hafez fight, I know some people felt like Hafez won. I was not in that camp, but that was back at UFC on ESPN 49 back in July of 2023. 17 media members scored the fight for Jack Della Maddalena, just 2 for Hafez, and that's on MMADecisions.com. That's where the media can post their scorecards. In the Kevin Holland fight, not a single media member scored the fight for Holland. Everyone scored it for JDM. So I think, it was split, but I don't think Holland won that fight either. So again, Jack still got it done. And one just sort of context thing here. You look at the fights that were rescheduled. Remember, JDM was supposed to fight Sean Brady on International Fight Week. Brady ends up having an infection, and then they give him Josiah Harrell, who had that medical issue. So he fights Basil Hafez a few weeks after that, or a week after that, I should say. And so he's kind of, been going through the motions of switch up opponents. So I know he didn't look that good in the Hafez fight, but you got to give the context of the fact that he had a couple opponent switch ups prior to that. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, let's look at Jack's stats. And you look at it there, look at the striking accuracy, significant strikes landed per minute, 6.74. That is one of the highest I've ever seen here since I've been doing this show. So credit to Jack on that. His striking accuracy is at 53%, and his striking defense is at 66%. He does not get hit that much. So I think Belal's was 57. His is 66. So credit to JDM for having good defense. Not much in the way of takedowns, 0.21. His takedown accuracy is only 16%, and his takedown defense is at 70%. We'll see if that pays off in this fight. And looking at the odds right now, we do have odds for this fight. So Belal Muhammad, almost a 3-1 favorite here, minus 245, minus 240 around there. JDM about plus 200. I'm assuming that's because of the layoff and lack of good opponents. But it's interesting here on Tapology. It tells a bit of a different story. It's a little bit closer here. So you see Belal Muhammad only up 58% on the picks, and this is where people can obviously submit their picks. There's 679 people who've given their picks, 42% picking Maddalena. Now, I don't know if that's people who actually think that JDM's going to win, but there's also people who obviously aren't like the biggest fans of Belal. So I wonder if that plays a little bit into this fight too, but I don't know how it can, because Belal put on an absolute clinic in his last fight to win the welterweight title. Absolutely dominated Leon Edwards. Okay, let's get to my pick for this fight. I don't think it's going to be a huge surprise. I think most people are picking this way. I'm going this way too. It's got to be Belal Muhammad by decision. So there's a number of reasons I'm going with Belal to get the decision victory. First and foremost, Belal Muhammad's only been knocked out once in 27 career fights. That one fight was against Vicente Luque. The same Vicente Luque, he ended up fighting later on and getting a decision victory in that one in April of 2022. So again, got caught in the first fight, was able to avenge that loss. Jack Della Maddalena has never gone 5 rounds in the UFC. Belal Muhammad has. There's some questions of how he will do in terms of the cardio and everything else. So that's something to kind of keep in mind. 75% of Belal Muhammad's wins are by decision. That's kind of one of the reasons he gets a lot of flack, is because he doesn't finish a lot of his opponents. So more likely than not, he is going to go the distance in this fight. I'd also argue that Jack Della Maddalena, and again, we talked about the injury in that fight. The fight against Gilbert Burns, I had him down on the scorecards. Now, that might be one I have to go rewatch. But I remember at the time, just looking through my notes, I had JDM losing going into the third round. Now, he ended up getting the finish, but Burns did have a lot of success with the takedowns in that one. And actually, you know what, to back up my case even more, let's go look at some of the stats here. As far as how many takedowns Gilbert Burns was able to get here. So if you look at it here, Gilbert Burns got 7 of 11 takedowns. That's a lot. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind in this fight. We know Belal Muhammad's got good wrestling. That's how he beat Luque and Wonder Boy. 7 takedowns in that fight. That's a ton. So we'll see if JDM has improved that takedown defense in this spot here. So there's that. Also, and I mean, again, Belal Muhammad could also do well in the stand-up too. His boxing's come a long way, but his wrestling's his bread and butter, and I think Belal just alone on wrestling would be able to win this fight. I mentioned it there too. Jack Della Maddalena has not fought the same level of competition. Yes, he fought Gilbert Burns, but Kevin Holland, not a great opponent. Basil Hafez just lost his last fight. Randy Brown, someone that hasn't been able to maintain his standing in the rankings. And then you got guys like Roberts, Ameev, and Rodriguez. I think some of these guys like Pete Rodriguez aren't even in the UFC anymore. And it's not his fault. I'm just saying it's something we have to consider when looking at the run that Belal's had compared to the run that Jack's had. And the other factor here is the injuries I should say injury with JDM, which has been an injury that's kept him out for a while, and the layoff. That's another red flag here as far as JDM looking well in this fight. So could Jack Della Maddalena knock out Belal Muhammad? It's certainly possible. He's knocked out a lot of his opponents. However, I think the most likely scenario here is that he ends up losing a decision to Belal Muhammad. So I'm going Belal Muhammad decision to get it done in Montreal in the main event to retain his welterweight title. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. Let me know in the comments which way you're leaning as far as your prediction on this fight. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.